Welcome to the show, guys. Got another good one here for you with Jimmy Maverick. We are talking about old and washed up players. And more importantly, who cares if they're old and washed up? The big question is, should you be drafting them for fantasy football 2023? Jim and I are going to answer your questions. We're going to go through every position, talk about these aging, old, washed up, or are they washed up players at each position. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here, Counselor. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to dive in here. Now, before we get into this, guys, I mean, the season is going to be here before we know it. Believe it or not, time does actually fly. So make sure you guys do get the 16-round draft solution. I've linked it here below on YouTube, or head on over to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com, or simply just go under the program section. You'll see the programs. And then you also want to grab the 16-round plus, guys. It's going to be a draft app. You open it up during your draft. It's going to give you a lot of in-depth analysis over the top 200 players, is it? 250 players.
250.
250 players is going to give you a cutty score, consistency, upside, durability, depth, and youth. A lot of inside analytical information. Are they in a contract year? What is going on with each individual player? 16-round plus. You can also get that, and you can use code EARLYLION, save 20%, or just go to 16roundplus.com. Tim, I called you Tim, Jim and Tim. Tim, the bald guy was on the show last week, so I'm getting you guys confused now. Both of you guys rhyme. So there,
Yep.
so it's kind of close.
I got a little bit more hair than that guy, but not much.
I was gonna say, yeah, you've got. So it's actually kind of a transition. Should be a photo. Tim, there's actually be me with the hair, even though you don't see my hair. Then you, and then Tim going right to bald, right?
There you go. There you go.
That's what fantasy does to you, right? The transition. So
there are times when you want to rip your hair out. There is definitely times that
for sure.
happens.
Well, the worst is when you start a player and they say they're slated to start and they come out for one snap and they're out or something like that. There's always something with fantasy that just gets you, right?
I hate that. And I got to tell you, Counselor, I'm so glad that you're talking about this today, because really, man, when it comes to Mother Nature wins 100% of the time against these guys. It's a battle against time, and you don't want to be holding or drafting a player when they hit that wall, and the wall is coming up quick on a lot of these guys. And so it's like red flags all around. Watch out for the upcoming season.
So let's start off here with the running backs here. Who's old? Who's starting to get washed up? Who should we be concerned about? Let's go through the list here. Let's talk about their ages, because for me, there comes a point where these guys are fading out into the sunset, right? They're losing their edge. They never really bounce back. We saw this natural regression with Zeke Elliott over the past couple of years, but there's certain players that just fall right off, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a bunch of guys that are really at the edge of the cliff where you're going to ask a question, are you going to get one more year out of them? Like, for example, we're talking running backs here, Derrick Henry. I think maybe last year was his last hurrah. I mean, what do you think? How old is Henry now?
Henry is 29, and he's going to be 29 at the start of the football season. So that's what I set their ages at. And I got to say, I was sweating bullets drafting Derrick Henry last year. It worked out great. He was great. He was really, really good. And I'm kind of thinking now that maybe he's going to have more of a Frank Gore kind of career, because he's just so big and he's going to play into his 30s maybe. But I don't know if you remember Frank Gore. He got more and more useless for fantasy as the years went by. Like the final 3 or 4 years he was in the league, you didn't even bother drafting him because it wasn't worth it. Didn't matter that he was getting like 200 plus touches a year. It was all worthless touches at 3.2 yards per carry. Somehow he kept getting hired. But he is, man, I don't know if I could do it this year. Now he has slipped on draft boards. He's gone down quite a bit from where he was last year. So I'm like, maybe could I take him? I'm not sure. I think I might just want to stay away, because when it comes to running backs, peak years for them, 23 to 25, that's when you're going to get a running back at their peak performance. And these guys are just on the downslope, and with running backs, it's not just a downslope, it's a cliff. They literally just fall off a cliff to nothing. So huge red flags for these guys we're going to talk about here.
Yeah. So for example, here, I want to just make a quick note here. This is a very important note, because Austin Eckler is such a high draft capital guy. Mm-hmm. Understand, he's had a couple Cinderella years. He's 28 and wants to get this mega contract. He's delusional. And you look at a guy like Zeke Elliott, who came in as an elite as an elite running back into the NFL and got that immediate start. Eckler started off as a background, wasting 2 years being a backup to Melvin Gordon. This is why I never thought Austin Eckler was really good, because he was just a glorified backup that got into a good position where he got a lot of checkdowns. Justin Herbert, good offense, and has thrived in that situation. Not that he's a good player, he's simply a product of the offense. Again, this is factual. Zeke Elliott is 28. Austin Eckler is 28. Nobody really wants to sign Zeke anymore. He's washed up. He lost his job to less superior Tony Pollard. So you're looking at Austin Eckler and Zeke. They're the same age, Jim. And Eckler's expecting this mega contract, thinking that his career is just beginning. Not the case at all.
It is not, man. And we're seeing that, it was kind of interesting. I mean, because there was just so many running backs on the market this year. How none of them really got a big contract. Most of them, I mean, Saquon and Pollard only got the franchise tag.
Right.
Most other guys just got a 1-year deal. Didn't matter how good they did last year. But yeah, I mean, if I was a football manager, if I was managing one of these teams, I wouldn't want these guys. I certainly wouldn't want to sign them to a multi-year contract at this point in their career, because it's only downside. That's all you got is downside at this point. So, but Austin Eckler, man, I can't imagine taking him in the first round at 28 years old.
Not even first round, top 3 pick.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, it's like, we talked about Jonathan Taylor being a nice bounce back candidate this year. Absolutely. 100% of the time I want Jonathan Taylor before Austin Eckler, and I can always get him after. So it's like, I'm not even going to bother.
And he's in a contract year, is he not, Jonathan Taylor?
Jonathan Taylor is in a contract year, and the dude's, he's 24, 25. He's right in those peak years, so why would I want to take the risk on someone like Austin Eckler?
Yeah, so I'm looking at this list here. You got McCaffrey, 27. I mean, I still think he might have a little bit of juice left. I don't think he's going to stay healthy this year. He has not proven that he can stay healthy. I mean, if you look at 2020 and 2021, played 10 games in those 2 seasons, had a pinnacle year last year again. I think I think that was his last hurrah. What do you think with McCaffrey?
Yeah, he's like a yellow flag player for me. I mean, certainly if you're picking top 3, he might be worth it. But, I saw a lot of instances last year when he was on the Niners where him and Mitchell, when Mitchell was healthy, they were splitting time. And certainly McCaffrey has lots of value because of his pass catching ability, which is good. But who's the quarterback going to be on this team? They signed Sam Darnold because they've got 2 injured quarterbacks on that team right now. Who knows if either one of them is going to be ready for the start of the season? I'm just like, I don't think I want anything with the Niners this year because there's just too many question marks.
And you got, again, this is going back to last year, but you're talking Niners, it kind of reminded me of something. Deebo Samuel in 2021 had this amazing year, but it was very touchdown dependent, got a lot of rushing touchdowns. Now we look at a guy who's also on this list, James Conner, that same year had a ton of touchdowns, was ranked very high by the Conchiefs. But you got to see these trends. You got to say that, hey, it's a pinnacle year, not going to happen again. So I've seen that with McCaffrey and a bunch of other guys here on this list.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got 4 guys that slipped below 4 yards per carry last year. 2 of them aren't currently signed to any teams. Leonard Fournette and Zeke Elliott. Oh, and Kareem Hunt. I'm sorry. 3 of the 4 have not been signed to a team at this point. I don't think they will. And Joe Mixon also was below 4 yards per carry last year. He's only 27, but he just seems like a guy that's just kind of out of juice, man. He had 1 good week, and that was it last year. And he was awful.
And he's dealing with off-field issues. Now, just looking at some of these old guys that you're mentioning here, out of the top 10, I'll tell you who's in this list. Okay, so from the list of old guys here, which we've got, currently consensus top 10, we've got Nick Chubb sitting at 8. Again, this is PPR, believe it or not. Derrick Henry sitting at 7, and Austin Eckler sitting at 2, and McCaffrey sitting at 1. So we've got about 4 to 5 older running backs sitting in and around there. Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook sitting at 14, 15, and Mixon at 16. So a lot of these guys in the top 20, where there's so many young, hungrier guys that are going to step up this year. Isaiah Pacheco, maybe, possibly, I guess, as a sleeper. We've got, Dameon Pierce possibly stepping up. We've got Tyler
Algier.
Algier. Yeah, all these guys
Yeah,
are
yeah.
going to be better value. Brees Hall is sitting at 12 right now. These guys, we got Bijan Robinson coming on. There's going to be a ton of rookies coming on that, depending on where their landing spot is, could easily surpass these guys. So
Oh, yeah.
it's just, when it comes to running back, I don't see paying these guys. Zeke done. I'm never drafting him again. Gus Edwards,
Right.
I don't even know why I put him on this list. I haven't drafted him in years. Jamal Williams had a pinnacle touchdown year last year. It's not going to happen again, right? So
Right.
you got to be aware. Don't just draft based on last year, because that's really going to screw your team.
Yeah, and something else to consider. Both, we're talking about the Saints. Both Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams are the running backs on that team. They're both 28. And
Yeah.
so it's like, wow, that and you've got the amazing quarterback situation down there too with Derek Carr. So it's like, oh, I'm just not sure it's going to turn out the way they think it's going to turn out there.
It's so old with the Kamara story. I mean, everybody keeps remembering. Well, I don't know if a lot of people remember, because it's been so long ago, but like, I can't believe we're still talking about it. Do you remember the Kamara Ingram combo in fantasy? That was a nice little combo, even though it was committee, they both performed relatively well. It's like everybody kind of is hanging on to that, thinking, okay, so every time another running back comes in with Kamara, it's like, oh, it's going to be that same year again, where, Kamara had 90 receptions for I don't know how many yards. It's like,
right.
I don't know, man. I'm done with the Kamara thing. I was never really on it, because I know he was never a true workhorse running back. I'm just so over Kamara and whoever they bring in that situation. I'm just done. I'm over this. Way over.
Yeah, and I think his peak year was about 3 seasons ago when he got those 16 touchdowns.
Yeah,
And he's been a shadow of his former self since then. And so it's like, and now he's 28. It's like, that's a lot of check marks against the guy. And
then he allegedly assaulted somebody. There's some off-field stuff and trials.
right, so he could get suspended for who knows how long, maybe up to 6 games. And so that's also going to just kill his value. And so, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even bother. No matter where he's going on the draft board, I just don't think there's any upside to taking Kamara. You're going off of past glories, and it's just going to lead to disappointment. You want the upside guys. That's what you need. The young upside guys.
And again, top 14 here, another guy won't touch is Aaron Jones at the running back position. Again, especially if Aaron Rodgers is gone, new quarterback, different situation. Right. Dylan's there. It just, no, it's a different offense without Rodgers.
Yeah, new quarterback, right, already is a huge drop-off when you're going from a Hall of Famer down to Jordan Love, or I think that's his name, Jordan Love, right? And also the fact that he is turning 29 this year. Aaron Jones is going to be 29 during the fantasy football season. Yeah. And that is an ancient artifact when it comes to running backs. I mean, he was very effective last year. I'll give that to him. He did very well, especially yards per carry basis. But man, I don't want anything to do with him. And I'm actually kind of big on AJ Dillon. I think AJ Dillon's going to take over, because AJ Dillon is in that prime age, that upside age, and can definitely take over if this guy comes in and he's like sub 4 yards per carry on his rushing. Dillon's going to take the whole job. So,
and this is ludicrous. Here, I'm jumping here. Nick Chubb turns 28 in December, as you said here. Yeah. And they got Deshaun Watson, who likes to run the ball himself. Different offense. And people are drafting him he's sitting as a top 10. Why? Because he had a good year last year. He was a top 6 back. So they almost like default. It's like a glitch. It's like, this guy finished on top. Oh, he's just automatically going to finish on top again. Right. Draft in that order. Nick Chubb staying so far away from that. And if, Hunt is going to be gone, whatever, I think Hunt will be gone, right? I think Hunt
is gone. He is already gone. Yeah.
Completely gone. So they're going to draft another young, hungry rookie running back, and it's going to be a disaster there. So, I'm not going to be drafting Nick Chubb at all.
Yeah.
At all.
I'm not as down on Nick Chubb, because he is only 27 right now. So he's like a yellow flag kind of player for me. And the fact that Kareem Hunt isn't there, that's good for Chubb. That's positive for Chubb. So, I'm not as down on him yet, but again, he is a risky player. Also, hey, how about James Conner, man? James Conner, 28 years old. Yeah. And, he's on a team which is not going to have its quarterback to start the year. And so how is that going to go? How good is that offense even going to be? It just seems like a real cliff type situation for him. Wouldn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah, I'm staying away from him as well. I never a fan of him at all. He had a good year the year Le'Veon Bell got hurt on the Steelers.
Right.
Other than that, like, and then a couple of years ago with the touchdowns, stayed away. And one more guy here, Dalvin Cook. Like, I think I have stayed away from his entire
Yeah,
career.
you're not a fan of Dalvin Cook.
No, he can't finish seasons. And I think it was like last year, right? It was like everyone drafted him as a top 5 pick. And where did he did not finish anywhere, and he finished 11th in PPR. Okay.
Yeah, a real disappointment if you spent that draft capital to get someone that did that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Tony Pollard did better than him, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's like very disappointing year. And yeah, I mean, he's aging out, and they did re-sign Madison. Madison might be a decent upside play, this year if Dalvin really just falls into the toilet. But yeah, I would not spend the high draft capital on someone like Dalvin Cook for sure. At his age, no way.
Yeah, he's off the cliff this year. And that's why guys like after this discussion, guys like Jonathan Taylor look so appealing to me, I
Right,
still got that young, hungry contract, still got a lot of juice left in the tank. Where you look at these guys, and I'm just like, not excited at all.
right, yeah.
All right, so let's move on here to the wide receivers now. So, with this position, tons of second-year players I'm interested in that I will
Mhm.
not touch any of these guys. So, quick old recap here: Adams 30, Mike Evans 30, DeAndre Hopkins 31, Keenan Allen 31, Tyler Lockett turns 31 in September, end of September. Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen 33, and it's so funny. Like he's on the Panthers now, right? Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at their social media, like, yeah, look at our weapons, look who we got. Dude, we got Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
They're bragging about him like he's like the next second coming of Jerry Rice or something like
Hey,
that.
they got to hype him up, right? I mean, they're,
It's
they're not
bad.
going to be like, "Oh, we got Adam Thielen." No, they're not going to do that.
It's sad, man. Allen Robinson 30, Odell Beckham now at the time of this recording. There's a couple teams looking at him. I heard Baltimore, I heard Jets, I heard Jets is most likely landing spot. They're talking about him like he's, back in 2016 Odell. He only had 1 or 2 good years his entire career. He's a
Yeah,
diva.
he was good at the very beginning of his career, but then
Yeah,
he has just been, I mean, he's just been injured. I mean, he just can't
yeah,
even stay on the field.
yeah.
And now he's like coming back at age 30. He turns 31 this November. And I'm just like, it's not going to happen, man.
No.
It's too late. It's your time was past. Your time was 2016. That's like the last time he was good.
Yeah.
It's not, he's not coming back this year. And I would not bother drafting him based on those former glories. You can't base it on former glories,
They're trying to keep him relevant. And that's the thing. Like they just try to keep these big name diva people relevant. And he's
Right.
just not. He's not relevant anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he'll sell jerseys wherever he gets
Yeah.
signed. People will buy the Beckham jersey, but it's not going to be worth it. Don't even bother for fantasy.
So
Yeah, and
he's
then
not
you got
gonna be
Robert
this
Woods at 31. You got Jarvis Landry turning 31 this year as well. All these guys, man, very, very dangerous. Now, I don't consider wide receivers as dangerous as running backs because running backs tend to fall off a cliff, but wide receivers tend to just decline. But when they're in the decline phase of their career, there's no upside. I mean, it's just like they're not going to do as good as they did last year. That's what it's going to be. And then next year is not going to be good as the following year, and like Devontae Adams getting what I consider a downgrade in quarterback. I mean, Garoppolo is not great, has never, I don't know if he's ever produced a QB1. I'm sorry, a wide receiver one. But Devontae Adams, I think is going to be in for a steep decline this year.
Let's talk about that real quick. I don't have
Yeah.
the stats. I'm pulling them up again here, but I looked at a couple years ago. I'm pulling up Jimmy G's stats. His actual highest year, like his best year. When I'm saying best of the best year,
Right.
cream of the crop, top
Career season, right?
career season is the word I'm looking for. It was 2019. He peaked at 27 touchdowns and 13 interceptions and under 4,000, 3,978 yards. Okay.
Yeah.
That's his pinnacle. That's his ceiling. So
Right.
that was 2019. He's been in the league, believe it or not. People don't realize. You think he's a young guy getting started. He's not. He's been in the league since. When do you think he's been in the league since? What would you guess?
Well, I mean, he was drafted behind Brady, so he sat behind Brady for the first 4 years of his career. I'm going to say like probably 2010, 2011.
I ruined it. 2014. He's been in the
2014. Okay. All right.
So
All
yeah,
right.
you look at him, you're like, yeah, like he's supposed to be young. No, he's not. He's not that young. Like, yeah, 31. You know, I mean, Brady played till 45, right? But he's been in the league for a while, and he, I guess, is the definition of years to wow me, and I'm not wowed.
Right. And he's always just been a very efficient game manager type of quarterback. He's never been a fantasy relevant quarterback. You've
No.
never drafted him and been excited about starting him any week. At best, maybe he can be a bye week fill in for you when your main quarterback is on bye. But yeah, I mean, he's just not that kind of player. He's a pocket passer. He's got no rushing upside. I mean, you get what you get with Garoppolo, but again, do you think Devontae Adams is going to get 1,500 yards? And what did he get? 11 touchdowns last year? I don't think he makes that this year, especially at age 30.
No.
I bet you he's probably maybe a 1,208 this year. I bet you that's what his line's going to be. Something around that, something around there. Still be good. It's still a pretty good line for a wide receiver. But, again, peak Devontae Adams, I think, is behind us.
Yeah, and I think it's really soul killing to know that, again, I'm not a big Derek Carr fan, but somehow people, not me, but somehow people believe that Derek Carr was the solution, that these guys can make a playoff run. And when you go to Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo, you're just like, it's soul killing. I think for me, I would lose hope. I'd be like, this guy's just not the guy to get us there.
Yeah, the difference is Garoppolo has actually gotten to the Super Bowl. He's actually gotten a team to the Super Bowl. But I think it was 2019, wasn't it? I think that was the year he got to the Super Bowl. So,
the solution though. I know, but he's just not, it's the anticlimactic.
Right. But there's just not enough good quarterbacks in this league. There's only about maybe 10 good quarterbacks. There's 10 really good quarterbacks. And then there's like a bunch of middling average quarterbacks. And then there's like 10 bad quarterbacks, So, So, he just kind of falls into that middle group, he's with Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo and those guys, they just kind of middle around there.
Jared Goff and
Jared Goff. Yeah, exactly. That's another one. Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill's. Yeah.
I don't know. I think Tannehill might have slipped down to the bottom tier.
Yeah. Tannehill's over the hill. All right.
Right.
So yeah, are you drafting any of these other wide receivers? Would you even consider, like, I'm not touching pretty much any of these guys, literally, that, like, if I'm going wide receiver, I'm waiting and I'm going second year players. Like, if I go early, I may consider a Jefferson or Diggs, but I'm not going to go early. But yeah, I'm looking at, like, Garrett Wilson's. I'm looking at Drake London's. I'm looking at second year players that could actually do well.
Right. And the one that I have been drafting in some of my best ball leagues is Keenan Allen, because he's like going 6th round right now, 6th or 7th round. And he's a slot guy. So he still has usefulness there. It's not so much about the speed. And you look at the volume that Keenan Allen was getting at the end of last year. It was insane. He was getting like 14 targets a game. It was really nice. And so I'm like, all right, I might take the risk there because it's only a 6th round pick and he'd maybe be my second or third wide receiver. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I'm not excited about any of these guys, man. And a lot of them I won't even touch. Like, I don't know, Mike Evans, he did not look good this past year. He did not look good. He had one good game right at the end of the season. And, that was it. And otherwise he looked awful the whole year. I mean, I'm thinking Godwin is now kind of the one on that team. And I'm kind of surprised that Mike Evans is still on there. They didn't trade him or just cut him. I don't know.
And then again, soul killing again, right? You go from the hopes of winning another Super Bowl with Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield.
I got to say, I cannot believe how quickly this team went from a Super Bowl champion team to a complete rebuild. I mean, that's literally in 2 seasons. It's like you won the Super Bowl and now you are at ground. You're at the zero start again. You got to completely rebuild the team. And that's kind of where the Bucs are this year. So it's not going to be fun.
So a lot of aging wide receivers. Now quarterback here, right? So this is interesting because you look at Tom Brady's done 45. Matt Ryan, he's done 30. We know he's over the hill. Tannehill is not going to be exciting. Stafford, they're saying that he might start to be good to go. I don't trust him. Kirk Cousins is going to be a safe guy. We got Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. These are kind of your older quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers turns 40 December 2nd. Russell Wilson turns 35 November 29th. Does he have one last hurrah left in him? out of these guys, I mean, for fantasy, I'm seeing limited upside, especially if Aaron Rodgers goes to a new team. We saw
Right.
what happened to Russell Wilson go to a new team. I get it. Maybe Russell Wilson for value, Aaron Rodgers for value, but look, the guys I mentioned here, do any of them excite you?
Well, I got to say, when it comes to quarterbacks, specifically these pocket passers, and these guys are all pocket passers, we've been spoiled by Tom Brady. The fact that Tom Brady played into his mid 40s is so unprecedented. There's only like a handful of quarterbacks ever in the NFL that have ever played into their 40s. But we think that, any quarterback can make it into their 40s and play.
No.
No. For the drop off happens at about age 36. That's when most pocket passing quarterbacks hit the wall. And so that's when you really got to get concerned. And that's why I'm really concerned about Rodgers, because he didn't look great last year. He wasn't, he lost his elite wide receiver one, and now he's getting one back if he goes to the Jets, which is a very positive thing. And I like that, but just the fact that he's 40 this year, wow, I'm just like, that is a really high risk. And these guys, their brain can still see what they need to do, but their body can't deliver it anymore. They can't deliver the ball. And, at best they become just a game manager. Look at Peyton Manning in his final season, or Ben Roethlisberger in his final season. They became excellent game managers and were able to, win enough games, but they just didn't have it anymore. They didn't have what they had when they were younger. And I'm afraid that might be what we see with Aaron Rodgers this year. So
Yeah, you start losing your fast twitch muscle, your reflexes go down, you get ailments and injuries, and it's just never the same,
Right. And all the more reason why Brady is the GOAT, because he was able to keep it going. I mean, he could have still played this year if he wanted to, but unfortunately he's not a QB1 anymore. He's he's like a Derek Carr level. He's like, why would I want to come back to the NFL and be like be like Carr,
Right.
So so when it comes to QB2s, I mean, I think Russell Wilson should have a nice bounce back year. I think he'll be better under Sean Payton. I'm generally positive about that. Plus, he's only 34, so they haven't hit that 36 wall yet. So I'm like, okay, Kirk Cousins, he'll be good. I think Matthew Stafford, as long as his neck is better, I think he'll be fine. But yeah, Ryan Tannehill does worry me. Matt Ryan last year, he was terrible. Oh yeah, he was 37. Oh,
Right.
1 year after that wall, I mean, it's like, you see it all the time. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with those guys, man. I'm not sure. I wouldn't draft any of them as my QB1 for sure.
Yeah, new generations here now. You gotta start looking at the younger guys.
Exactly.
I like Justin Herbert for a bounce back. Jalen Hurts is going to be solid this year. A lot of good younger quarterbacks stepping up. It's going to be interesting. And, way off topic here, but Lamar Jackson, I still think you should have taken the $133 million guarantee, $250 million deal that the Ravens offered him. Now, I mean, I think some teams got to pick him up with desperation of how quarterbacks are. But you heard what the Atlanta owner came out and said? He's like, yeah, he missed like 5 or 6 games the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, that's 5 games each of the past 2 seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a concern.
It is, especially to do a fully guaranteed contract. That's why he's not going to get it. But again, I mean, I think the risk that Lamar Jackson is even going to play this season is extremely risky. That makes the Ravens risky. The Ravens don't have a plan B. They've got no one. So it's like that kills the value of just about everybody on the Ravens. And Lamar not playing, I can't imagine drafting him as my QB1 and then having him not play. That's like the worst thing in the world.
And he's not young. He's young. He's 26, right? But he's not young. But look, check this out though. Like the past 3 seasons has not even thrown over 3,000 yards. Why would I pay a guy 250 million, 200 million guaranteed, 180 million guaranteed? If the past 2 seasons, you haven't finished those 2 seasons and you haven't thrown over 3,000 yards. I know you're a running quarterback, but look at his ratio here, 26-9, 2020, which is okay. 16-13 in 2021 and 17-7 in 2022. That's not somebody I want to pay 200 million to.
Yeah. And I think if you average that out through, if you had played a full season, he would have obviously had probably pretty decent numbers there. If he did almost get to 3,000 in 11 games, that's pretty good. But yeah, I mean, it's just the fact that, is he durable enough to weather a full season? If he is, he's worth it. But he hasn't done that in the past 2 years, and he wasn't able to do it on these past 2 years were contract years for him, and he wasn't able to do it, which is a big red flag for me. If he can't do it on those years, then he probably just can't do it anymore. And that's the risk of these rushing quarterbacks, man. They take a lot more pounding than those pocket quarterbacks do. That's why the pocket quarterbacks last longer.
And he's not built like a Josh Allen. He's not built like a Jalen Hurts. If you look at the bodies of Jalen Hurts and you look at the body of Josh Allen, just built tougher. You could see it, like you could physically see it. When you look at him, I'm looking at a lanky Robert Griffin Jr. style body. I'm not seeing like a tough guy. Like I'm
right. That could really take that kind of punishment.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm not.
That's probably. And when he was younger, man, he was able to just run around guys, and now he maybe just doesn't have that extra burst of speed. And so they're able to hit him more and harder. And, and that all adds up. That's, so yeah. Lamar Jackson is just like, oh man, he is a screaming red flag for me. I'm just way too scared to draft him unless he nails down some optimal contract at maybe some other place. And they've talked about who was it that they said was kind of clearing out their cap space? Indianapolis, I want to say. I don't know. Yeah, Indianapolis might just end up going with for Anthony Richardson or something in the draft.
They're going to look at it. They're getting a quarterback in the draft.
Yeah. So
and if you want all this information correct, this is all in the 16 round plus tool. You can get their ages as well in the tool.
Right. Yes. And it also, the ages impact the upside score of the player. So the youth component, these older players get marked down on the upside, which in turns, they don't score as many cutty points. They're lower ranked on the board, and it's easier to just stay clear. So you don't need to worry about it.
All right, let's wrap this up quickly here. Tight ends. Again, tight ends after Kelce, it's a fall off. But when does Kelce actually fall off? He's turning 34 October. Early October. I mean, Waller's 30. Higbee, I don't care for. You got listed here. Zach Ertz is 32. Taysom Hill, 33. With these guys, I mean, with the exception of, let's talk about Kelce. When is that year where he falls up? Because he's shown no sign of stopping.
I know. He has been amazing. I mean, really, never gets hurt, plays every game, is open every play. I don't know how he does it.
I don't get it either.
His older brother, what's his older brother's name? Who plays for the Eagles.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. They got to show their podcast together.
Like 2 years older than Kelce and is coming back to the NFL next year. I mean, I think this family just has the genetics to be super, super durable. And, we've seen elite tight ends play into their mid 30s. No problem. Great. The guys like Tony Gonzalez and players like that. So although it is a concern for me for Travis Kelce, I think he's fine. He's matched up with the best quarterback in the NFL. I think he's going to be great. And while I think maybe I do like the upside of someone like Hawkinson a little bit better because of his draft position and everything, taking Kelce as your first pick, if you're late in the first round and all your best running backs and all your best wide receivers are off the board, maybe go Kelce. I mean, I could talk myself into it. I might regret that, but I could talk myself into it for sure.
His brother Jason is 35. Kelce, he's a couple years older.
Yeah. So I just think this family has the genetics to be able to play much later than most tight ends can. And but he is a risk. I mean, it was a risk last year, and it totally paid off. He was fantastic last year.
Yeah.
So
For sure. So other tight ends, Darren Waller, new situation. I don't care for him at all. He's out there rapping. I really don't care for him. Higbee, Zach Ertz, and Hill, I won't be touching anyway. But these are some of the guys that are getting up there in age at the tight end position, which I forgot to update the marker here on our screen talking about tight ends. So again, there's not much to talk about tight ends, really. I think
not a lot. Outside of Kelce, who cares?
I always say get a tight end later with some upside that's going to get you 10 points a game. So I always get two tight ends and kind of rotate between who's having a good week or a bad week. Again, I don't like to get Kelce early because even though it's kind of almost guaranteed points, it's like I got to give up a running back or someone like that. I don't
Right.
want to do that. The tight end doesn't excite me because I'd rather even maybe get a top end wide receiver, because he puts up top end wide receiver numbers. Kelsey does, right? Wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, he's been like literally, if he was ranked with the wide receivers, he would be a top 5 wide receiver every year for past 4 or 5 seasons.
Okay.
And that's yeah, but it's it's a positional advantage. If you take Kelsey, you're going to have a positional advantage over every other player in your league for fantasy purposes, and that's valuable because everyone else is going to be playing with some piddly guy to maybe give him 7 points a week, and Kelsey's getting you 20. That's a nice advantage.
So let's put it in perspective. So 316 points last year from Kelsey PPR.
Yeah.
Okay, when you look at who the wide receiver was at that point, it was Stephon Diggs. He was the 4th wide receiver in fantasy.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
So
But but you can play Kelsey in your tight end slot. So again, it's a valuable advantage. It's a positional advantage, and I think in smaller leagues, especially if it's 10 teams or fewer in your league, the positional advantage of someone like Kelsey is outstanding on a week to week basis for just being competitive with the other players in your league. But
one more context here. In 2021, he had 260. He finished second amongst tight ends, 262 points. Right. By the way, Mark Andrews had finished number 1 with 300 points, 301 points in 2021. Then he busted the year after. So 2021, Kelsey 262 points. To put that in perspective amongst the wide receivers in the 2021 year, he was like a wide receiver 9, Mike Evans. So again, you could be, it's in and around top 10 wide receiver numbers depending on the year.
Sure. Yeah. Again, it's valuable on a position basis, but I mean, there's no other tight end in the league that's like Kelsey right now. So
for sure,
he's a one of a kind right now. So.
All right, guys, there's some old and washed up players for you. You got to make a decision. Are you going to be investing and taking a chance, or are they going to fall off the cliff? The click. No, fall off. There'll be nothing clicking if they fall off the hill. I mean, like Derrick Henry, he could be falling off. Dalvin Cook could be falling off. Nick Chubb could be falling off. Austin Eckler wants his big deal, but you saw what's happening with Zeke at the same age. So many question marks, but just be aware that these guys aren't your young bucks anymore. They're just not.
Yeah. And, let us know down below if you've got any players that you're concerned about, whether it's age or anything else, and let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think you and I should go play. We're about the same age as some of these guys that are falling.
I still would not want to play with these guys. These guys are way better athletes than I am. I just get a little time on my elliptical. I get a little time on my elliptical every day. That's not going to match up with those guys. With what those guys can do.
We can't plug you in as a backup to Austin Eckler this year anyway.
I think it was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. We were at my kid's school and we were out on the football field and just played around. I'm like, oh, I wonder how fast I could run the 40-yard dash. It was so slow compared to what those guys do in the combine. I'm like, oh my God, they could have run it 3 times,
I would have paid. Is this on video? Because I'd pay to see it. If you got it on video, let's put it on for the viewers.
I do not have it on video. Thank goodness.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to get your kids to shoot you again, running the 40-yard dash.
Sure. There we go.
That's our goal before the season starts.
I will consider it. I'll consider getting out there and doing that. So we can put it up.
All right, guys. We'll talk soon. Old and washed. Stay away from some of these guys. Be careful. They could be falling off the cliff. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Jim.
All right. Thank you, Counselor.
Thanks.